G'day, everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. This time, we're looking at something that's pretty close to home for all of us, especially with the election coming up, how Australia protects whistleblowers.
Yeah.
Now,
Oh,
we've been through a stack of reports and articles and legal analyses,
yeah.
all sorts of stuff to try and figure out, how Australia actually treats people who speak up about dodgy stuff.
And it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because Australia actually has quite a lot of legislation.
Yeah,
We've got the Public Interest Disclosure Act, the Treasury Laws Amendment.
right.
There's even a brand new National Anti-Corruption Commission Act.
Mm-hmm.
So on paper, it all looks pretty good, right?
You'd think we'd be all over it.
You would?
But here's the thing that I just can't get my head around. According to the Human Rights Law Center, not a single person has been able to successfully use those federal laws to get protection
That's right.
since they were introduced. Like, not one.
No one.
It's just unbelievable. It makes you wonder if it's all just for show.
Well, and it is a big problem because a lot of these laws are fragmented across like at least 10 different federal acts.
Really?
Yeah, you try and make sense of it all.
Oh, wow.
It's very hard to get your head around.
Right, so, okay, we've got laws, but they're all over the place.
Yeah.
What does that mean for someone like me or you, just an average Aussie trying to do the right thing?
Well, think about it. Imagine you're at work and you see something really dodgy going down. Like maybe your boss is, fiddling the books or someone's cutting corners and it's actually putting people at risk.
Yeah.
Would you know where to go to report it?
Yeah, that's true. I probably wouldn't.
Exactly. And chances are you'd be wading through this bureaucratic swamp, not really sure what your rights are.
Yeah.
Absolutely terrified of making a wrong move.
Right, so what you're saying is this mess that we've got actually discourages people from speaking up in the first place.
Absolutely. It's like trying to put together a puzzle with half the pieces missing.
Oh, right.
And when people aren't sure, they're much more likely to stay silent.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Which means dodgy dealings could be happening all over the place with no consequences.
And that's a worry, isn't it? Especially when you think about some of those really high-profile cases that we've seen in the news, like David McBride,
Oh, yeah.
the military lawyer who blew the whistle on those alleged war crimes in Afghanistan.
Yeah,
He's in jail right now.
that's right.
It's incredible.
There's Richard Boyle, who's facing prosecution for speaking up about what he saw as unethical debt recovery practices at the ATO.
Wow.
And then Bernard Colleary, the lawyer who exposed Australia spying on East Timor,
Yeah.
he ended up in court too. So it's a pretty rough trot for anyone who sticks their neck out, wouldn't you say?
It's enough to make anyone think twice
For sure.
about speaking up. But, I mean, these aren't just isolated incidents, are they? This is something bigger.
Exactly. This isn't about a few bad apples.
Right.
This is about a system that seems to punish people for speaking up rather than protect them.
Right.
Makes you wonder, how committed we actually are to fairness and accountability.
Yeah, for sure.
It's not just about Australian laws either.
Really?
Yeah, we've actually signed up to the UN Convention Against Corruption,
Right.
which specifically says that countries need to protect people who speak up.
Okay.
It's like a global standard that we're supposed to be meeting.
So it's not just our own laws. We've got international obligations, too.
Exactly. And when you compare what we're saying on the world stage
Yeah.
to what's actually happening here.
Right.
Well, let's just say there's a fair bit of daylight between the two.
So we're ticking the boxes, but not actually walking the talk.
Yeah, pretty much. We've got the laws, but they're full of holes.
Right.
The UN Convention says we should have a dedicated authority, laws that actually work together, proper support, all the stuff we just don't have.
And it's not just, legal mumbo jumbo, is it?
Yeah.
This is about people's lives.
Yeah.
People who have had their lives turned upside down.
Absolutely.
All these sources are just full of stories about people who have paid a really big price for doing what they thought was the right thing.
It's really sad when you think about it.
It is.
Behind all the headlines and the court cases, there's just a normal person who saw something wrong and felt like they had to do something about it.
Yeah.
And they put their jobs, their reputation, sometimes even their freedom at risk.
It makes you think, what would happen if that was you or me?
Yeah.
What if we were at work and we saw someone being bullied or harassed
Yeah.
or some sort of dodgy dealing?
Yeah.
Would we be brave enough to speak up knowing what these people have been through?
It's a question we should all ask ourselves, I reckon. Would we stay quiet to protect ourselves, or would we risk it all to expose the truth?
Yeah.
It's a tough one.
It is. And maybe that's why this whole This whole daubing thing needs to change.
I think so. We need to change the way we think about whistleblowers.
Okay.
Instead of seeing them as like traitors,
Yeah.
we need to see them as heroes.
Okay.
They're the ones keeping the people in power honest, you know? They're the ones making sure everything's running properly.
Yeah, it's like having a watchdog. Right.
Exactly.
Barks when someone tries to break in. They might be a bit annoying.
Yeah.
But they're protecting everyone.
That's right. But instead of thanking them, we often just shoot the messenger.
Yeah, that's true.
It's no wonder people don't want to speak up.
So how do we change that then? Is it just about having this dedicated authority, or do we need a bigger, like a cultural shift?
It's a bit of both, I think.
Right.
We need a system that actually protects people properly.
Yeah.
But we also need to change the way we think about this whole thing.
Okay.
We need to actually celebrate these people's courage instead of condemning them for making waves.
Yeah, that's a big ask, isn't it? Changing how we think about something so ingrained in our culture.
It is, but we've done it before, haven't we?
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, think about smoking or domestic violence.
Yeah.
Attitudes have definitely changed over time.
Yeah, they have.
And the good thing is there's growing support for whistleblowers. Yeah, people are starting to see that they're not just snitches or troublemakers.
Okay.
They're really important for a healthy democracy.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
So what can we as voters do then to, keep this going?
Well, don't let this issue just disappear during the election,
Right.
Ask the politicians what their stance is on all this.
Yeah.
Do they support a dedicated authority? Do they understand what the challenges are?
Right.
Make them answer the tough questions.
Yeah, make it clear that we care about this and that we want our elected officials to, prioritize protecting people who speak up.
Absolutely. And it's not just about voting.
Okay.
It's about having those awkward conversations, with your mates and your family.
Right.
Challenge that whole don't daub mentality.
Yeah.
Explain why whistleblowers are actually important and why protecting them is good for everyone.
So it's about changing the narrative.
Yeah.
From don't be a rat
Yeah.
to look after your mates by calling out bad behavior.
Exactly. It's about changing the story we tell ourselves about what it means to be Australian.
Yeah, like that.
And who knows, with a bit of effort, maybe we can turn this whole thing around.
Yeah.
Make Australia a place where people feel safe to speak up, knowing that they'll be looked after and not punished.
That's a future I can get behind, but
Yeah.
we've given our listeners a lot to think about.
We have.
So let's take a break and come back with some final thoughts on, how we can all actually make a difference. Shay. So we're back and ready to wrap up our deep dive into whistleblower protection here in Australia.
Yeah,
We've gone through a lot, haven't we?
we
All
have.
those confusing laws and the stories about people whose lives have been turned upside down.
Yeah, it's been pretty heavy going.
It has. But sometimes you got to face the tough stuff, right?
Yeah, but it's important to remember that things can change,
Yeah.
We've seen it happen with other issues that seemed impossible to shift, like attitudes towards smoking or domestic violence.
That's true. Good point. Yeah, it's easy to get caught up in all the doom and gloom,
It is.
but it's important to focus on solutions, right?
Absolutely. And the good news is all those reports and things that we've been looking at actually offer some concrete ways forward.
Okay.
We've talked about a dedicated whistleblower protection authority.
Yeah.
Clearer laws, proper support systems, all really important stuff.
But we can't forget that real change isn't just about, ticking boxes and passing laws.
Yeah.
It's got to be about a change in how we think,
Exactly.
about making it so that speaking up isn't just okay, but something that we actually value as a society.
Yeah, it's about creating a culture where people feel safe to call out wrongdoing,
Right.
knowing that they're going to be supported and not left to fend for themselves.
So let's be real here.
Yeah.
Given how strong that whole don't daub mentality is,
Yeah.
do you really think that a dedicated authority would be enough to encourage people to come forward? What else do we need to do to actually make a difference?
That's the big question, isn't it?
It
A
is.
dedicated authority is definitely a good start.
Yeah.
It sends a strong message that we're taking this seriously, but it can't just be a token gesture. Right. It needs real power, to investigate properly, to hold people accountable, and to actually support those who do speak up.
And that support's a big deal, isn't it?
It is.
I mean, these people are putting themselves out there.
Yeah.
They're risking their jobs, their reputations.
Sometimes even their freedom.
Yeah, exactly. They need more than just nice words, right?
Absolutely. They need practical help, legal aid, counseling, you name it.
And then there's that cultural side of things.
Yeah.
We've got to challenge that don't daub mentality everywhere,
Everywhere.
in schools, workplaces, even, at a Barbie on the weekend.
Exactly.
It's about having those awkward conversations and explaining why speaking up is about protecting your mates, your community,
The whole cut.
the whole country.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's about looking after each other, not just sweeping stuff under the rug.
That's it. And we can all play a part in this.
Yeah,
It's not just about waiting for the government to fix it.
right.
We can start by having those conversations, supporting organizations that advocate for whistleblowers.
Calling out bad behavior when we see it.
So it's about creating a movement,
It is.
making it clear that this is something Aussies really care about,
Yeah.
that we're not going to put up with this culture of silence anymore.
And remember, there's an election coming up.
That's right.
This is the perfect time to make our voices heard.
Exactly.
Talk to the candidates about their stance on whistleblower protection.
Yeah.
Demand real action, not just empty words.
All right, well, we've given you a lot to think about today, but hopefully this deep dive has given you some food for thought,
Yeah.
some things to talk about, and maybe even fired you up a bit.
Hopefully.
Better.
Because at the end of the day, this isn't just about protecting whistleblowers. It's about protecting all of us. You know,
Right.
It's about making Australia a fairer, more accountable place where truth and integrity actually matter.
Absolutely. So go out there, have those conversations, make some noise, and let's make sure that anyone who speaks truth to power gets the protection they deserve. That's it from us on the deep dive. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for joining us as a rook.